One is you have to, you really have to be good at 10 or 15 things at all times. A lot of us want to believe that, oh, we don't have the title for something, therefore we can't do it. So it could be like, I can't do my own taxes or bookkeeping because I'm not a CPA, I'm not an accountant, so I have to pay somebody to do that. Well, you probably need to learn like the 80-20 of finances and how to read a balance sheet, how to prepare an income statement, how to do those things. So then you understand the inner workings of the business, you understand the economics of the business, and then you can bring on professionals to help you with that last mile. But for so long in my early days of business, I would try to delegate things too quickly when I didn't understand. And I think you have to delegate a little later in terms of do it yourself for a while.
Welcome to Your Wordless Podcast, the space where we redefine success, self-worth, and transformation. I am Nick Nieras, the soul-centered architect of transformation, helping you unlock your highest potential and build a legacy beyond limits. Now, whether it is self-mastery, career breakthroughs, or wealth creation, this is where change begins. Now let's dive in. What was it like growing up as a Bryan Clayton?
You know, I'd like to tell you that I was a natural born entrepreneur, that it was something that I was just born to do. But the reality was I was forced into entrepreneurship by my dad. He got tired of watching me play Nintendo all day. And one day, I'll never forget this. He came into my room and said, "Hey, get off your butt. I talked to the neighbors and they need somebody to mow their yard." And so I said, "Well, I don't mow yards." And he said, "Well, you do now."
You do now.
This was not a request. This was a direct order. And so he dragged me next door and made me mow the neighbor's yard. And I remember very clearly, I got paid like $20 for 2 hours of work. And I thought, now
Is that bad?
These days is not that great in the United States, but back then in 1995, it was pretty good. And so I something just clicked in my head. I thought, now this is awesome. I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to get more of these jobs and just make this the thing I do. And so I was just addicted to it right off the bat. And I started making flyers and passed out flyers all over the neighborhood where I lived, and had 10 customers that first summer. And I never looked back. So my childhood was very much one of smelling like gasoline, cut grass clippings all over me, mom yelling at me because I was bringing grass clippings into the kitchen, green shoes, you name it. So that was what my childhood was like. But I looked at running my little business almost like it was a video game. I was just working one level at a time and trying to get through the levels. And that's how high school was, how college was. And then when I graduated college, I had to make a decision that I want to stick with this lawn business that I had, or go get a job with the degree that I had. And I didn't really want to be a lawn guy. It's not a very sexy industry.
It's not really glamorous. Yeah.
It's not a very prestigious industry to be in. But the reality was I had 2 or 3 helpers, and I wasn't making a lot of money, but I was making enough to where I could see if I could double the business, triple the business again, that I could have a real business. And a light bulb went off in my head. It was that it doesn't matter what the industry is. What matters is your passion for success, and your passion for growth, and your passion for getting to the next level of the game. And that the business and the industry is almost just pointless. And so I saw that as, okay, I don't have to love the lawn business, but I can make a plan and get really enthusiastic about working that plan. And so made a business plan, and within 10 years, I had 150 employees doing $10 million a year in sales. And inevitably that business was bought by a national company in the United States that runs these types of businesses. So I was fortunate that when I was a kid, my father made me start my first little business, and I just was able to stick with that for a long period of time.
Wow, what a journey. Now, I want to go back to the part where you said during high school, you were just taking it day-to-day basis, right? And at the time, so I have a lot of questions in my head running right now. Number one, you didn't know what you wanted to do. So you were just playing your Nintendo, and then suddenly your dad had to drag you out from that comfort zone and do this, right? So, but most, how do I say this? The generation nowadays are, and it's not that easy for us to do that, and they have different kind of thinking, right? So I guess my question here is, number one, when you said going through the, day-to-day basis, like how did you actually keep that motivation within you? Now, and you told me you didn't like, maybe it was phrased a little differently. You didn't like mowing, but you like the business side of it, right? So
That's
how
well.
did you, how did you structure your head around?
Yeah, it was. So it's almost like a video game in a sense that every level of it you evolve. And so in the beginning, it was very much I wanted a new pair of soccer cleats, or I didn't want to wear. I wanted to wear the Tommy Hilfiger to school.
Yes.
I wanted to save up for a car, and I didn't want a crap car. I wanted a good car. So it was very much extrinsically motivated in a way that I wanted material things, and I wanted to get money to buy those things. And so I realized really early on that I could have anything I wanted so long as I was willing to work for it, so long as I was willing to put in 10, 15-hour days sometimes to get what it is I wanted. And that will get you through level 1 or level 2 of the game. And that's kind of how it was for me. And that's how it kept me going. That was just me, myself, physically doing the work. And then at night, doing the marketing, bookkeeping, and all of that kind of stuff. And the cool thing about a simple business like a lawn care business is that you can learn 90% of what it means to run any business in this very simple industry. So as time went on, I was learning things as it relates to capital investment in terms of if I can take the money I was making and not necessarily spend it on a new pair of shoes, but I could buy a new tool. I could save up for a new lawnmower. I could buy a new blower that cleans off the driveway. I could invest in equipment. Then I could make even more money because I could do more work with less time. And so it's a very simple thing you learn in business in the early days where you're almost like, even though you're running this simple little service business, you have to wear the hat of a capital allocator where money comes in and you're putting money back out to work. You can't do that in a normal job. You don't have the ability to make more money because you reinvest your salary in something. That simple thing does not exist in a job. But when you are running a business, it exists. And so that was a simple thing I learned that, okay, well, if I can buy, commercial grade equipment, I can make more money with less work. And then, so maybe that's metaphorically level 2. And then level 3 is human capital. I know that now I need a helper because I'm getting a good reputation in the neighborhood, and I can invest in people now and bring on helpers. And then you do that wrong where you're losing money on the employees you're bringing in. You try to figure that out. So it's like you work these levels of the game, and then you as the entrepreneur evolve alongside the business, which makes it very rewarding. It makes it very fulfilling. And that's how my business was. And then my second business, GreenPal, is that way as well, where I'm every year evolving into a whole new person, and the business requires you to do that to succeed.
I love that. What would you say to your younger self that you know now that you didn't know then?
Yeah, a couple things.
Hi, I'm Nick Nieras, your host of the Your Worthless podcast. Now, if these real raw stories hit home, don't wait. Please follow, like, and subscribe my Spotify and YouTube. For bite-sized inspirational reels, follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Don't wait. Your transformation starts today. Thank you, and bye for now.
One is you have to you really have to be good at 10 or 15 things at all times. A lot of us want to believe that, we don't have the title for something, therefore we can't do it. So it could be like, I can't do my own taxes or bookkeeping because I'm not a CPA, I'm not an accountant, so I have to pay somebody to do that. Well, you probably need to learn like the 80-20 of finances and how to read a balance sheet, how to prepare an income statement, how to do those things. So then you understand the inner workings of the business. You understand the economics of the business. And then you can bring on professionals to help you with that last mile. But for so long in my early days of business, I would try to delegate things too quickly when I didn't understand. And I think you have to delegate a little later in terms of do it yourself for a while.
Hey love, it is Nick Nieras here. And if you've been feeling stuck, burnt out, or like you're meant for more, but don't know where to begin, I have got something for you. This isn't just about mindset work. It's about deep soul healing, subconscious rewiring, and remembering who you really are. Now, I created a free self-hypnosis audio to help you release the noise and reconnect your inner truth. In just 10 minutes, you will feel the shift immediately, I promise. And if you are ready to go deeper, explore my digital guides designed to help you overcome fear, activate your confidence, and find clarity in your next move. They are your next step before full transformation. But if your soul is saying, I am ready, then apply for a one-to-one coaching with me. This is where we do the real work, transforming your blocks, aligning your life, and unlocking the confident, magnetic version of you that creates wealth your way. Head to the show notes now. Your new chapter starts with one small yes. Now let's get back to the video you're watching.
With YouTube University, you can learn anything. On the internet, you can learn anything for free in most cases. And so put in the work, like focus on one thing at a time. Doesn't matter if it's bookkeeping, copywriting, business operations. It doesn't matter if it's strategy. It doesn't matter AI. It doesn't matter what it is. You need to put in the time to get like 80-20 good at these things and then try to delegate. So don't delegate too soon. But then once you have the acumen, you need to delegate. You need to bring on somebody to help you move quicker, bring on somebody to help shore up that part of the business. So it's this weird dichotomy of don't delegate too soon and then don't delegate too late. It's somewhere in the middle. And that was a hard lesson I learned in the early days of running my first business. Was I probably wasted 5 years just doing too much myself. And I could have moved a lot quicker if I had learned how to delegate.
Right. Wow. I really thought that so the earlier part of your journey, you delegated too quickly. And then you realize that, okay, I think I need to know how all of these different parts of the business are moving. I need to understand them myself. And then you switch on to, okay, I'm doing them all, but then now I'm drowning. I'm overwhelmed. Help me.
Well said. Well said. And then you burn out and you're not doing any of them very good because you're stressed out. You're overwhelmed. And then
you're spreading yourself too thin.
And you delegated too late. And so that's bad as delegating too early. So a lot of times, so again, to reiterate, the first mistake founders make is, especially these young ones, they delegate too early. Well, I don't know how to do marketing, so I'll just delegate that. Well, that never works. You have to do it yourself for a while and then build out a process, figure out how you're going to delegate it to people to help you execute your process. So it's a strange thing of don't do it too quick and don't do it too late.
Okay. Well, that's a good one because I've just entered into the entrepreneurship journey myself. So I'm learning a lot from founders like yourself, Bryan. So thank you. Okay. So now, blue collar hustle to tech CEO. All right. What mindset shifts were necessary to go from hands-on landscaping work to leading a tech company?
So yes, things. In kind of the same vein that we were just talking about. You are going from working in the business to working on the business, and working in the business is, in the case of a lawn mowing company, you're mowing the yards, you're answering the phone calls, you're returning emails, you're mailing out invoices, you're making sure who paid you. That's working in the business, but you have to set aside time to work on the business. So it's things like what is the marketing system? What is the customer satisfaction system? Am I emailing all of my customers once a week, asking them how do they like my service, and then asking them to leave me a review on Google or TripAdvisor or Trustpilot or something like that. So you have to have systems that help the business run smooth. Otherwise, you just built yourself a job. And so in the early days, maybe it's Monday through Friday, you're working in the business. Then Saturday, you work on the business. And then there's a third thing, you have to work on yourself. So if you want to really transition into a CEO of an organization, you're going to have to learn skills that you don't have today. You're going to have to learn leadership skills, management skills. You're going to have to learn how to figure out the vision of what this business is doing and where you want it to go. And you have to learn from people who have done that already. And so you're going to have to listen to podcasts. You're going to have to listen to audiobooks, read books, conferences, things of that sort to work on yourself. So you really have to do three things at once: working in the business, working on the business, and then working on yourself. And then as time goes on, flip those, where 90% of the time is working on yourself and working on the business. And then the working in the business part is happening in the background by the systems you've created. That's kind of how I transitioned from a blue collar landscaper mowing yards to running a landscaping business with over 100 people, to selling that, to now running GreenPal, which is a tech platform. And as time went on, little by little, I was always trying to focus on, okay, I want to work less in the business. I want to work more on myself, and I want to work more on the systems of the business.
That company. So Bryan, we heard about this AI, right? Like, so how does AI play out in your business, and how does it make it more efficient, and how are you scaling it?
Yeah, so
I'm just throwing the jargons here.
If you're not thinking about, how you're going to leverage this new technology,
yeah,
I mean, it's as crazy as like back in the 90s and early 2000s, it wasn't necessarily an accepted thing that a business had to have a website or a media profile. Social media didn't exist. And so it wasn't like this given that you had to have a website. Well, nowadays, if you're in business, you have to have a website. You have to be on every social media platform. You just have to be, or else you're not in business. And that's kind of like what AI is now. If you're not using, it's almost as preposterous as trying to run a business out of a website. That's what trying to run your business without baking in some sort of AI into the workflows. And so that's with GreenPal, we're always looking for ways, okay, what are the bottlenecks in the business, and where can we use AI to help alleviate those? So GreenPal connects buyers and sellers in the lawn mowing industry. That's what we do. And so we make matches. And consumer that needs to have their lawn mowed, they list their property, and then lawn care companies nearby them bid on the property. And so we're constantly trying to figure out who are the good lawn care services, who are not the good lawn care services. And so we're now using AI to make better introductions for when Mrs. Smith, who just needs a basic mowing every 2 weeks in this particular zip code and wants to spend this amount of money, we now can crunch the data quicker, easier, more predictably than we could beforehand. So it's been a fulcrum for us in our business. But how do you, like, let's just say you're just getting started. How do you apply AI into your day-to-day routines? You really, first thing you can do is just not use Google. Use ChatGPT or any of these other models, and start there. Because what you're going to find is it's a lot more effective, and especially if you're just starting from scratch, and let's just say you don't even know where you're trying to go, you can keep querying this language model until you can kind of figure it out. Just keep asking questions. Pretend that this thing is like a Harvard grad, and then they graduated from MIT and Stanford, and they just sit next to you all day. And all they want to do is
Yale, all of the Ivy Leagues.
All of them, and like they sit next to you all day. And all they want to do is just like help you. And all they want to do is make you happy. Hey, imagine how powerful you would be if you had that person. Exactly. Well, you really kind of do. These days now with AI, you kind of have the person riding shotgun with you that has those qualifications, and probably more, because they never get tired, and the only thing they want to do is help you succeed. And if you think about it that way, reframe these tools that way, it can really be a superpower. And so that's kind of what I've been using it for at a personal level, and in looking for ways to bake it into what we do at GreenPal. And the other thing too is if you ever find you or anybody on your team doing busy work, like cleaning up a spreadsheet, or trying to go through a stack of emails, or now there's AI tools that can do that so much quicker than you could before, like free up hours of your life. So then you can do, like we talked about earlier, you can work on the business. You can work on yourself. You don't have to spend time working in the business on those mundane tasks.
Wow. Like when you were saying that, I just remembered I've also started to persuade my mother to use ChatGPT.
Nice.
Because
Nice.
number I use it personally as well for me to, get some ideas on what content to push out and those things. But for her, like she's been asking me some questions. So the analogy that I'm using is she's been asking me questions, and then the questions are like super simple. Like what are we cooking? What do we want to have for lunch? And I'm like, Mom, I can't really think of it right now because I'm working. But why don't you download ChatGPT? And then just list down all of your ingredients that you have, and then ask it to, give you suggestion on what to cook. And she was like, okay, yeah, I'll check on it. I'll try it. But then, you can't blame them because humans are resistant to change, but like it or not, we are all moving towards that direction. And I think the sooner we embrace it and then see it as an assistant rather than our own rather than competitors, that you're going to be a superhuman in that sense.
Exactly. And this is, I remember there were people I worked with that would have their assistants print out their email, and they didn't have a laptop or a computer on their desk, and they were kind of like these holdouts that just didn't want to use a computer, never got on the internet. And so that existed, 10, 15, 20 years ago. That's kind of where we're at today with AI. It's the whole cycle all over again. You're going to have, most people aren't going to want to use it. And then very quickly, everybody's going to be using it. And so it's just kind of like, do you want to, which side of that conversation do you want to be on as a professional? You better start looking for ways to bake it into everything you do.
Yeah. Brilliant. What are the non-negotiable traits for entrepreneurs trying to build something real?
I think the non-negotiable is to reduce all the friction between you and customers telling you everywhere what you're doing sucks. And you need, because they will, and you need to be able to hear that feedback from customers from day one. And so often founders will want to do everything but talk to customers. They want to get behind the laptop, do content, write code, design, social media strategy. What's the culture going to be? We should go to this conference. I mean, every single little thing, but pick up the phone and talk to a customer of theirs. And so it's comical, but it's just it's a mistake that every founder makes. I've made it myself. So you really, it's a non-negotiable, have to do the first 100 sales, first 1,000 sales of your business, hand to hand, face to face, hand cranking, so you can understand who your customer is, what it is they want, what they're looking for, and where you can make their life better, where you can solve problems for them, where you can take something off of their plate, and they will pay you for it. And they will not only pay you for it once, but over and over again. And you can keep them as a customer. It's only when you go through the cycles of that customer development do you then understand what the hell it is you're building. And so in the early days, that means the phone number on the website goes to your cell phone number. The email address to support at, yourbusiness.com goes to your email inbox, because you really need that feedback. And you need to be talking to customers 7 days a week. Sunday, there's no day off. You have to take that customer call because A, you need the sales, but B, you need the feedback. You need the research and development to understand what it is you're doing. So that's a non-negotiable. And then as the business grows, you still need to kind of figure out a way to force that in, because you don't want this gap to form between your thinking and your customer's thinking. And so you want to close that gap. The way I do it at GreenPal is I still do at least an hour a day of customer support. We have a customer team that takes, calls, emails, live chat, but I can jump in there at any time with our tools, and I can do it myself. And so I'm always answering customer inquiries personally, because I want to know what they're saying. I want to know where GreenPal's letting them down. And I want to know what they want our product to do, or what they expected it to do that it may not be doing for them. And yeah, you can have people do that for you and like relay it to you, but it's not the same as getting in the trenches and experiencing it firsthand. And there's a funny show in the United States. I don't know if you guys have it in Malaysia, but it's called Undercover Boss. And it's this show where like they'll get the CEO of Donuts or the CEO of any,
doing some phantom calls.
yeah, or like you think they're working behind the counter, and like CEO is like doesn't know how to run the cash register and doesn't know where they put the ingredients and doesn't know that this thing is quirky and doesn't know that there's this one thing that they do every hour of every day that pisses off customers. And he's like, why are we doing this? This is stupid. This is insane. And so you see the disconnect that occurs between, the founders or management or leadership and the actual people on the ground. So you kind of have to like bake that into what you do. In the early days, you have to do it, Monday through Friday, but as time goes on, you still need to do it so you don't let that gap form between you and your customer.
Wow. So if I could simplify that, it's like engage.
And never stop. And never stop. But like in the early days, over engage. Like that phone number on the front page of the website needs to go to your cell phone number. It can't go to a voicemail somewhere, or it can't go to a call center. You really need to be talking to 50 customers a day.
Whoa. Okay. Now, I have to reset and reevaluate what some of the things that I'm doing right now. Well, thank you, Bryan, for that. Okay. What's a failure that hit hard but ended up being a valuable lesson for you?
Well, Bill Gates has got a good quote. He says, success is a lousy teacher. And so that's true, that, when you're succeeding, you think that it was you that did that. And that you think that you're like, master of the universe and that you made all the right decisions. Therefore you're successful. A lot of times maybe that might be true, but a lot of times it's luck. And so success is a lousy teacher. The only time we learn in business and really in life is through failures. And so you have to, anytime you're going through a failure, you have to like ask yourself why 5 times. Why did it happen? And get to the root cause of why it happened. And so for me, time and time again, I'm always learning from things that we screwed up. And one of the first big mistakes with GreenPal was when we were building the first version of the product. I didn't know how to code. I didn't know how to write software. I had never built a website. So I had to, I thought I could just outsource that. And so it goes back to, I delegated too soon. I delegated to a development shop and they built the first version of GreenPal, or at least what we thought it should be. And we wasted a year doing that and around $200,000 doing that. And because they built like the wrong thing. It was hard to use. It was clunky. It was full of bugs. And that was a hard lesson that I had to learn, that first, if you're going to be in the technology business, you got to learn how to do this yourself. You got to learn how to do the technology yourself. And you got to be motivated enough to do that. Looking back, it's kind of as silly as wanting to start a restaurant, but you've never like cooked a recipe or never even thought about cooking in your whole life. That's kind of like what it was for me starting a tech company, but I'd never coded up software. Just as silly as that. And so that was a hard lesson. I learned that, if you want to be in the game, you got to learn that the 80-20 of the skills that you're going to need. And so my co-founders and I went back to the drawing board, taught ourselves how to build software. That took like another year or two.
Wow.
And then we were able to delegate on some of these tasks and build a team around us only when we had those skills.
So you went back and learned how to code, like?
Had to.
Wow.
Because again, it was kind of like, it's just like, okay, we started a restaurant, we outsourced kitchen and that didn't work. And then so, but we still had the lease on the building in the restaurant, still wanted to be in the restaurant business. So we had to go to culinary school and learn and develop our own proprietary recipes. I'm dragging out this analogy of what running a restaurant would have been like, having tried to do it the way I tried to build GreenPal. Didn't know how to code, didn't know how to build software, tried to outsource that. They built a terrible thing that barely worked. So then we had to go to software school. My co-founder actually went to a software boot camp, and then I went to YouTube University and took every online class I could. And then we learned how to craft the software that we needed to build the marketplace to make GreenPal work.
Wow. Impressive. Okay, so Bryan, I know we talk about GreenPal bits and pieces here during a conversation, right? Okay, so tell us, the listeners, they might be wondering, what is GreenPal? I mean, besides the show notes that I'm going to put, can you share with us what is GreenPal actually? What does it do?
Yeah. So, these days people just want to use their phone, push a button and get something done. They do it for food delivery. They do it for getting a taxi, do it for getting a Airbnb, you name it. GreenPal is like that, but for the simple thing of landscaping, gardening, lawn care, things that you need done outside of your home. Rather than calling around on Facebook or something like that, you just download GreenPal, you pop your address in, and then professionals around you will compete for your job, compete for your task, and they'll submit to you pricing, and then you can read reviews about them, and also look at something that's important. How often do they show up on time? Because we measure that inside the platform. We measure that as a way to figure out who's good and who's not good. And then you can make a really quick hire, and then they come out and do the job. If you liked how they did, you pay them, and you can set them up to come every week. And so it's a way to push a button and just get this chore done. Around 300,000 people in the United States use it every week, and around 50,000 lawn care companies use it to run their business.
Okay, for those listening out there, if they are not using GreenPal already, please go on to the GreenPal website and then hire your lawn mower company through that website. Okay, Bryan, where do you see GreenPal in the next 5 years?
We need to get the platform to 1 million users. So we want 1 million people every week using it to get this chore done. And we need to grow the amount of landscapers using it too, obviously, to fulfill that need. And then we want to expand it to Canada, UK, Australia, and then eventually throughout the rest of the world. We still have a lot of ground to cover in the United States. Even though we have a few 100,000 people using it, there's 230 million people in the United States. So we're still just a drop in the bucket. So we're going to continue to go deeper in the markets that we're in, grow the user base, and then go internationally.
I'm sure it will be a success, Bryan. So if you could give one piece of advice to someone starting a service-based business today, what would it be?
If you're just starting, so along the lines of what we were talking about, making it completely frictionless for customers to reach you, talk to you, and then basic fundamentals like following up with every single person that you do business with and asking them what it is they liked, what they didn't like, and then asking them for the repeat business. Those are basics that 90% of founders don't do. So beyond that, one thing I would do strategically is I would look at the incumbents in your business that have been doing it for 10 years, 20 years, and look for ways to outcompete them with new tools. And so for instance, I went to a dentist about a month ago, and I walked into the dentist's office and they handed me a clipboard with 5 pieces of paper, dead trees, and a
oh no.
And I'm sitting there writing all my information on this clipboard and paper and a pen. And, these days that shouldn't exist. And so that's an example of like your competitors are still using a clipboard and paper. So look for ways to outcompete them, to run more efficiently, to deliver a better customer experience, to outmarket them in terms of doing better marketing, because your competitors aren't doing a lot of these things that you could be doing. So beyond the basics in terms of being proactive with customers, listening to customers, answering their phone calls 7 days a week, look for ways to use new tools that your competitors aren't using.
Always getting that competitive edge out there. Always look for that. Okay, right, Bryan, my podcast, well, it talks a lot about self-worth. So we're going to pivot to a self-worth question. Now, you've had your fair share of failures and then your hurdles and challenges while setting up your businesses. So in all those years, have you ever had trouble defining self-worth when you have got, or just, when you're faced with something super big and you feel like you can never get through it, but you did. Eventually, we all do. If you put your heart and soul into something. Have you ever had that moment? And if you have, can you share with us what was it like for you?
Yeah, a lot of these types of managing your own psychology and emotional aspects of running, like of just day-to-day, like personal life, also go into business life. And if you're doing business with everything you have, you tie up a lot of your personal stuff in it as well. And I think that's just inevitable. And so for me, the first 15 years running my first small business and then selling it, a lot of my own personal worth was tied up in that business. And so when I sold it, that was gone. And it was a very strange thing to not have this mission, this project, this reason for existing almost was now gone. And now I had to start all over again. And so I think if you're doing business with everything you've got, that's going to happen, and that you're emotionally going to get tied up in it. And I thought when I sold my first company that I was just going to kind of like live the good life and not work as hard anymore. But what I learned was I learned that you need to have that mission. You need to have that project. You need to have that purpose. The answer to the question, if I don't like get out of bed early this morning and get some work done, why does it matter? And if it wasn't for me, then what? The business that you're working on can be the answer to a lot of those questions. It can be the answer of why it's important for you to grow, why it's important for you to learn new things, why it's important for you to work really hard. The business is the answer to those things. And it's the thing that can give you personal fulfillment. And so that I have experienced that, and I've experienced not having it. And then that's what caused me to start GreenPal, because I needed a new project. I needed a new mission, another reason to really try to give something my all every day. And I think that's just part of it. A lot of people talk about work-life balance. I don't really know what that means. I think
yeah, me too. Being a founder, no.
It's all intertwined. If you work for like a corporate company and, they give you vacation and 5 days a week. Yeah, you can have that balance. But if you are a founder of your own thing, I don't believe there is that balance. And I think that's fine. Just embrace that. That's part of it, because that's what's rewarding you, and that's what's making you grow.
I forgot who said there's a saying is if you make work as your play, you're not going to work a day in your life.
Ideally, yeah.
Ideally, yeah. Ideally. There's a caveat there. Ideally.
Like I mentioned earlier, I hated the lawn mowing business. Never loved it.
Exactly.
And so, but what was fun was the progress, was the getting goals accomplished, was the hiring new people. And the other thing was seeing the people that I hired prosper. You would see them drive in with a new car to the office, or you would see them sending their kids to private school, or you would see them putting a down payment on a house. And it's not like, oh, I did that. No, I didn't do that. They did that. But I was at least part of building the organization that gave them the opportunity to prosper in life. And so that's a lot of fun. So that is the passion. The lawn mowing sucks. Hate that, but that's okay. This is the vehicle to get there. Yeah. Substitute lawn mowing for whatever it is. 99.9% of businesses are not fun. Unless you're, in entertainment or music or, something like glamorous. I'm sure those businesses could be fun. And even those are probably a drag after a while. So business, like in the trenches, dealing with customers, that's not fun. And anybody that says it is just lying to you. The success is fun. The progress is the seeing that it's not a zero-sum game and that you can make opportunities for others is fun. So embrace that part of it.
Yeah. And it's so important to also wait or almost anticipate the person you're becoming throughout that process, rather than just the destination of you. Okay, I get to, because most people go to businesses. If I might be saying like a percentage of people going to businesses because they want to, with the goal of selling it off, right? Getting the profit, and then but then.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, okay, Bryan, what is your heart's greatest wish?
Oh, wow. That's a good one. I would like for people in my orbit to feel like they were able to do something with me that they could not have done otherwise. And so I would like them to feel like, wow, because I went into business with Bryan, or I know him, or worked for one of his companies, that I was able to achieve things in life and go places in life that I otherwise couldn't. So that's something that I always try to keep in the back of my head that I am trying to give opportunities to people who use products that we build or that do business with me, the ability to get wherever it is they're trying to go.
That's beautiful. Thank you for that, Bryan. Okay. Now, if you could create a quote right now for you to leave to the audience listening and the world as your legacy, what would it be?
Quote.
Yes, a quote.
Real simple. Listen to your customers or you will have none. You have to make, it doesn't matter what stage of the game you're in. Day one, no customers, you have 10 customers or you have 10,000. You have to always be listening to your customers or else you eventually have no customers. And so again, making it super frictionless for them to reach you. Don't make the email go to no reply at yourbusiness.com. Make the email come to you. They should be able to get somebody on the phone within a couple minutes. Like making it really easy for customers to give you feedback is crucial. So listen to your customers or you will have none.
Okay. Now, how can people reach out to you, Bryan?
Yeah, greenpal.com. Find me on LinkedIn. Just Google my name. You can pop my name into Google. Find me on Instagram. Hit me up on any of those places.
Awesome. So, okay, Bryan, any last messages for our listeners today before we close off?
Yeah, the spin on your podcast is your personal self-worth. Start a business. It's the most fulfilling thing you could do with your life. So it can take you places in life that otherwise you wouldn't be able to do. It is the most fulfilling thing I've ever done. And so I know it's like not the most glamorous thing, especially in the early days, but stick it out. In 5 years, you'll be in a different reality and you'll be a different person.
Wow, that is personally for me. Thank you, Bryan.
My pleasure.
Thank you. All right. Well, that is a wrap for today's inspiring episode with Bryan Clayton. Thank you for your wisdom and dedication to uplifting others. This has been Your Worthless. Read that again, the juxtaposition of your very soul. Now remember, if you've ever felt worthless, you are not alone. Your soul chose to be here to matter, and for that reason alone, you are worthy. A huge thank you to you again, Bryan, and to all of you for listening. Until next time, I am Nick Ñaras. Keep shining, keep growing, and always remember, you are worthy and you are enough. See you in the next episode. Thank you, Bryan, for your time.
Thank you, Nicolette.
And cut. All right, we got that.
Good deal. Good deal. Let me know when this goes live. I'll help promote it.
Yes. I have. Hi, Bryan. Good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning. Good to be with you, Nicolette. How are you doing?
I'm doing very great. Well, thank you so much for coming onto my show. I'd like to introduce myself to you formally and to all of our listeners. My name is Nicolette. I am the creator for the podcast titled Your Worthless. Read that again. The juxtaposition of your very soul. Now, today we're going to talk about lawn care industry. And well, I'm very interested into diving deep into entrepreneurship mindset and motivation. So I'd like to introduce you first, Bryan, to our listeners, and then we can get right into our conversation.
Fantastic.
Awesome. So hello, everyone. We have Bryan Clayton here with us. Bryan is not your typical CEO. He is a true innovator in the lawn care industry. Now, as the founder and CEO of GreenPal, often called the Uber for lawn care by Entrepreneur Magazine, Bryan has completely transformed how homeowners find and hire local lawn care pros. Now, today, over 300,000 people rely on GreenPal, with thousands of lawn transactions happening every day. It is all thanks to Bryan's deep understanding of the market and his ability to meet customer needs in fresh new ways. Well, that is far from Bryan's first success. Before GreenPal, he built Peachtree Inc. into one of Tennessee's top landscaping companies, driving it to over $10 million in annual revenue before selling it to Lousy Holdings 13. Wow, what a journey, Bryan. Welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me on. It's great to be here.
So, okay, wow, so much to learn from you. Yes, entrepreneurship and motivation, how to get up daily and not lose the fire. But first, Bryan, I'd like to take all of my guests and listeners a trip down memory lane first. What was it like growing up as a Bryan Clayton? Love this episode? Now, transformation doesn't end here. Head on to @holistic.lifestyle_with Nick. That is on my Instagram. Or head on to my website, www www.holisticlifestyle.com for more info on my coaching framework, which is the Worthy, Authentic, and Abundant Framework, digital guides, and my upcoming events such as retreats and master classes and workshops. Now, I also do intuitive readings where we get to check on your soul path. And if you're also wanting to check my